Welcome back. Today, I'm going to show you how to print this mechanical jellyfish. This print won second place in the Printables Mechanical Marvels contest. Honestly, I don't think it deserved second place. It should have won first. Keep watching till the end for some tips and tricks that'll save you time and frustration. If you like jellyfish that don't sting, then this is the print for you. Why don't you grab the files and print along with me? Now that all the pieces are printed, it's time for the worst part of 3D printing, the cleanup. There's a grand total of 12 gears that you'll need to print, 4 internal and 8 external. Next, we have the axle, along with the center gear and axle gear. Next, we have the crank axle, along with the crank handle. The dome will house all the gears. This dome locking ring will hold all the internals in place. It should be a crime if you don't use a color-changing filament for the tentacles. This filament was made for this print. It just takes it to a whole new level. Stick around till the end for more information. Last but not least, you'll have 12 tentacles to clean up. It's time to start assembling this mechanical work of art. This was my first mechanical print. After how much fun I had putting this together, I can guarantee you it will not be the last. This past summer, I took my family to the beach. The kids were having a blast when suddenly one of them began screaming. I rushed over there as fast as I could to see what was going on. Once I saw the red welts on her legs, I knew she'd been stung by a jellyfish. As you're screwing in these 12 tentacles, you can rest easy knowing that you won't get stung. Unfortunately, that was not the case for my daughter. I shouldn't have been surprised though. We spotted many jellyfish earlier that day. Luckily, we knew what to do. Do you know what to do if you get stung by a jellyfish? And no, peeing on your jellyfish sting is not the answer, but I digress. Once all the internals are put together, slip this ring over the tentacles and screw securely. This will ensure that everything is locked into place. We now move on to the base of the build. This opening will be for the axle, and this one for the crank axle. You'd be surprised how squeaky this handle was. But I've got a fix for that too. Getting this retaining ring installed on the crankshaft was fairly tricky. It took me a few tries to get it in place. There's that squeaky wheel again. The last thing left to do is to install this larger axle gear and close up the base. This lid had a really nice fit, and it was easy to screw on. With the 2 main parts completed, it's time to connect them with the axle. Just one more step, and you'll have yourself an interactive jellyfish work of art. If you plan on building this, stick around for some tips and tricks. If I have a print that has joints or parts that fit together, I try to print a sample first. Doing this allows me to test the fit and function of the parts before committing to the full project. This is simple to accomplish with Cura. I first loaded both parts that I wanted to test. I then pushed the parts that I wanted to ignore into the print bed. Only the parts above the bed will be printed. I hit print, did a test fit, and once I knew that things were good, I proceeded to print the other parts. Let's talk about Vase mode. Before this project, I've heard about Vase mode, but I've never used it. When using Vase mode, it tries to only print the outer skin in one continuous print. According to the instructions, you're supposed to use Vase mode for the tentacles. But I'm on the fence about it. On the right is a tentacle printed in Vase mode. On the left, it's printed normally. Vase mode was certainly faster to print, but it left the tentacles feeling paper thin and rather flimsy and weak. It was easier to screw into the gears, but not before you can hear a couple cracks. Watch how easily I can snap the tentacle printed in Vase mode. However, I can't even flex the regular printed tentacle. If you're building this for kids, I would probably print the tentacles in a regular mode. But if it's a showpiece that really won't be messed with, then go ahead with Vase mode. You can't go wrong either way. When screwing the tentacles in, you'll find that it just keeps spinning and spinning and spinning with the gears. Hold on to any of the gears to prevent them from moving. This will make this part so much easier. Also, make sure to start installing the tentacles in the middle, and then work your way to the outer ring. While these tentacles may all look the same, they're not. Make sure that you keep track of them, because there's 4 tentacles that spiral one way and they go in the center, and then there's another 8 tentacles that spiral the other way. Those go in the outer ring. Luckily, if you do get them mixed up, it's really easy to pick them from a lineup. One of these is not like the others. If you need to take this print apart, you'll find that the gears aren't so easy to remove. The last thing you're going to want to do is pull on them. I learned this the hard way and broke a pin or two. The easiest way to remove the gears is to insert the axle, and with the gear housing facing down, keep spinning while gently pulling. You'll find that the gears will remove themselves. This leads me to my next tip. I printed the gear housing with the basic default Cura settings. As a result, the gear pins were hollow and weak, causing them to snap. I didn't want to increase the print density or wall count for the whole print. That would just be a waste of filament, especially since I only needed the extra strength for the pins. So I used the per model settings to create a bounding box that would have different settings. I stretched the box to overlap all the pins and gave it a larger wall count, but only for the pins. You could argue that this was a waste of time, but it did save me some filament and print time. In addition, I learned how to create a print with different model settings. Let's talk about print colors. This print was made for this tricolor filament. This is easily one of my favorites. I mean, take a look at it. It speaks for itself. For the dome, I used what's called Galaxy Rainbow, and it's a color shifting filament. It's got a little bit of a sparkle to it. I'll leave a link to these filaments in the description below. Now for the gears, you're gonna want to use different colors for the internal and external set of gears. Just like the tentacles, they are different, but unlike the tentacles, it's really hard to tell them apart. Before you jam the center gear into position, know that there's only one way to install this gear, and this isn't it. Make sure that the side with the circular hole is facing up. If in doubt, the round hole in all the gears should look the same. Assembling the gear housing in the dome can be tricky the first time you do it. Notice the notches? Make sure that these are aligned with the tabs on the gear housing. There are 4 guides inside the dome. These 4 guides are designed to lock into place with the grooves on the gear housing. When you bring the 2 parts together, you should hear a satisfying click if everything's aligned properly. If you need to disassemble the dome and the gear housing, gently jiggle the gear housing and it should come off. I'm not even gonna lie, this print was loud and squeaky, but luckily that's a simple fix. One thing you can do is grab some grease. In my case, I had some white lithium grease. After applying the grease to all the moving parts, it not only got quieter, but it was much smoother to crank. It's no wonder this print won second in the Mechanicals Marvels contest. It seriously should have won first, just saying. With its rave reviews and near 5-star rating, I'm surprised you're not already printing this. If you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe. It'll motivate me to make more like this. Also, if you have a print idea or a video format you'd like for me to experiment with, leave the suggestions in the comments below. I'll see what I could do. Until next time, happy printing.